Like Darcy.
Yankel was on. Okay, he'll come back on him, Mr. Shem. Again.
Yeah, hopefully.
Anyway, let me see if I
Okay.
okay. Um, okay. Bezos Hashem. Today's daf is the last of the Masechta Nedarim, and Bezos Hashem, we will complete this Masechta tonight. Very special night. Okay, now here we go. The Mishnah begins. We discussed the Mishnah. The Mishnah is on Tzadik Omid Beis, and it really interesting Mishnah because the Mishnah discusses that three women who go over to their husband, they'll go over to their husband and say to their husband, three women that go over to their husband and say, "I can't remain married to you." If some woman says to her husband, she's a Kohen, her husband's a Kohen, she says, I got raped. So then, Yoitzis v'noitlis ksuba, we believe her, and she takes a ksuba because they can't live with each other anymore. Then, if the Mishnah says, if she says, I can't live with my husband because I can't have children with him because he has an erectile dysfunction. So then, Shemayim beini veinecha, we trust her. We force the guy to divorce her and give a ksuba, or she herself says, Netula ani min haYehudim. I just can't have relations with any Jew. Something about having marital relations causes me pain. All these three women, we let them go free. But then they saw that women were making up this story. And they were saying that these stories so that they can go out and elope with a younger man. So therefore, if a woman says all these things, she's not believed. Okay, that was the Mishnah before. I want to point out to you something very important, and that is that the Ran asks the question, how is it possible if min Torah, right over here, the Ika if you're going to get a chance to look into it, the Ran asks, if min Torah, the woman is believed, right? Min Torah, she's believed when she says she was raped and her husband's a Kohen, and therefore they're not permitted to stay with each other. How could Chachamim say, no, we don't believe her, and they should remain with each other? That's living in sin. What power do the Chachamim have to stay the marriage? And the answer is, and it's a very common thing that's used very infrequently. The Chachamim have a power to uproot a marriage from the very beginning and to pretend that the marriage didn't exist. And they'll say that they were never married, the woman with the Kohen, and when she was raped, she was already an unmarried woman. So therefore, now they'll say, okay, now this is the new marriage, she'll stay with the husband. But when she got raped, they'll say at that time, there was no marriage there, and the power that the Chachamim have is the Kol Mekadesh Adaita D'Rabbanan Mekadesh. Remember these words: that if a person makes marriage, he has to have the consent of the Rabbanan. And if the Rabbanan later on decide that they don't like this marriage, then they have a power to undo a marriage from back then. And the rabbis uprooted the Kedushim from this person, from her. I say this because there was a rabbi in Share many years ago in the 50s, Rabbi Rachman, and again, all the Rabbanim were against him, but he had this thing about agunas. If the husband didn't want to give a get, if the husband was nuts and didn't want to give a get, the power of the Rabbanim to invalidate the marriage going backwards by saying that this husband was nuts and this marriage should never happened in the first place, so we don't even need the marriage. So
What happens if there were children? Do they have then a different legal status?
they're not mamzerim. If they were born out of wedlock, we'll treat them. Anyway, anybody,
Okay.
all the rabbis were against him. He was, but
He's a pretty famous Rav.
he was. He was. He left Share and became a rabbi in the Fifth Avenue Synagogue, and then moved on to Israel. But this is his famous thing that he was. I don't know if Mater Agunas. There is. They say he did, and say, listen, you're not an aguna. The rabbis have a power to uproot the marriage when it was made in error or something like that. Kol Mekadesh.
Bernard, how far could this go? Could it be like after 20 years?
Oh, you see, it's happening in the Mishnah. Well, the Mishnah, well, you see, it's happened. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how far what the cases are. There are write-ups about it, but you see, it's happening in the Mishnah because Minat Torah, a woman who's married to a Kohen says I was raped. She cannot. We believe her, and she's not allowed to stay with her husband. She should get a get. But then the rabbi said, no, we want them to stay together. So that's what that's what the Ram is struggling with. How could the rabbi say that they could stay together? Hey chitiruhu. You know, I'm pointing it out. Where did that the marriage? It's it's an usher for a raped woman to stay with her husband, the Kohen. Yesh mitu teretz that since the Kol Mekadesh adaited the Rabbana Mekadesh, so they undid the kedushin. So when she was raped, she wasn't really married to the guy, and therefore she wasn't awesome. Very strange thing. But anyway, that's one of the turutzim of the Ran. Go. So Amar Papa said. Badiklan Rava. Rava tested us. Rapapa was a student of Rava, and Rava tested us. Ashes Kohen Ensa. Let's say there's witnesses, and Ashes Kohen that was raped. Okay? Yesh la ksuba, ein la ksuba. Does she have ksuba? Does she not have ksuba? So the fact is, she was raped, and therefore she cannot no longer stay with her husband. So why should you force the husband to pay the ksuba? Even the oinus legabe kohen keratzim legabe Yisrael dami, since being raped by a kohen, a husband who's a kohen, is like as almost as if it has the same dinim as somebody who with willingly was mizana if her husband was Yisrael. You know, a Yisrael, if his wife was raped, they can stay together. It's only when she does it on purpose and she with full intention, then she becomes usher to her husband. So therefore, when a woman does that intentionally, so in that case, she goes out, ein lo ksuba. When a rotzoin legabe Yisrael, she does it on purpose and her husband is a Yisrael, she has no ksuba. So let's say the same thing. Oinus, if oinus for Aish's kohen shenensa, the kohen shouldn't have to pay the ksuba. Dilma, you can say it's not her fault. Motzi Amrele, she can say Anoha Chazina. I'm willing to stay married because I did it on oinus. I didn't do it on purpose. We go to Tzadik Amar Aleph, but Tzadik Aleph Amar Aleph. V'gavruhu dinistachva. You're the man that got your field flooded. In other words, it's not my fault. You're a kohen and you're usher on our oinus. So the question was, would she get ksuba? An Aish's kohen, a wife of a kohen, that everybody saw that she got nanas, she got raped. Does she get her ksuba? She can't stay with her husband, but will she get her ksuba? I mean, we answered her, mesnisenhi. That is exactly our Mishnah. The Mishnah says, if a woman says, Tmei ani lecha, I got, somebody was mizana with me, yesh la ksuba, she gets her ksuba. Now, by my asking, what is our Mishnah discussing? Would you say our Mishnah is discussing the wife of Yisrael? If she did it on purpose, klum yesh la ksuba, would she get her ksuba? Our Mishnah says, if she says to me, I was mizana with somebody, if she's saying she did it on purpose, for sure she shouldn't get her ksuba. And our Mishnah says she does get her ksuba. And if she says if it was against her will, right? So then what's the problem? Well, why is she saying I want to leave the marriage? Mi kometasra agavra, will she be usher to her husband? Ashes Yisrael that got oinus would not be usher to her husband. Ella, our Mishnah must be discussing the Ashes Koyim. Our Mishnah is talking about an Ashes Koyim. If the Ashes Koyim did it on purpose, would she get a ksuba? Would she be any worse off than an Ashes Yisrael that did a baratzon? Or is she better than an Ashes Yisrael that did a baratzon? Of course she shouldn't get a ksuba. It must be that our Mishnah is talking about ba'oinis, that she's doing it. She did it on purpose. She did it on ba'oinis. I mean, she was forced into it, and she's an Ashes Kohen. The Ketani, our Mishnah says yesh la ksuba, that she does have ksuba. So again, the bottom line is that the Ashes Kohen that got nanas, it's not her fault. She's usher for her husband. Because of that, therefore, she still has ksuba. And that's exactly what she's saying in our Mishnah. She's saying to her husband, I was nanas. Her husband is a kohen. And therefore, we forced the husband to give her a get, and she will get her ksuba. Now the Gemara asks a question. This could happen. It's hard to imagine such a thing happen, but imagine after World War II, a husband and wife, a former husband and wife, meet up. So they ask the question. Amr Labala, she says to her husband, Gerashtani, you gave me a get. We're not married anymore. Maho, do we believe the woman? Now where's the paper? And where's everybody? So they got killed out. The paper is lost, right? The Ram discusses that. So in the Iskara Haget, or got lost. Do you believe her and permit her to get married? That's the question. Will you now permit her? She said, I got married before the war. I got a divorce. Amar Rav Hamnuna, Rav Hamnuna says you do believe her. Tashma, you can prove it from our Mishnah. Ha'imeris, a woman says to me, that she says, I got tuma. Somebody was nanis me, right? I got raped. Even according to the second part of the Mishnah, which we decided not to believe her when she says Tameani Laka, Hasam who the Mishakra. We assume there that reason why we don't believe her because she's lying. She was never raped, but she just wants to get out of this marriage to marry a younger man. The Yada, the Bala, the Layadaba. She knows her husband never knew about that she got raped, so she could always make up any story and they'll believe her, right? That's always the case. But in this case, she's pointing to her husband. Don't you remember you gave me a get? So it takes a lot of courage to do that. So if she wasn't saying the truth, she wouldn't have the guts enough to say that. And the fact that she's saying it, it must be that she's saying the truth. Get it? If she tells her husband, you gave me a divorce, the Yadaba, that he knows if he gave her a divorce, Nehemna, she's believed. The Chazaka, we have a confirmed rule. Ein isha me'eza paneh b'fnei bala. A woman doesn't have the courage to say a complete lie in front of her husband if her husband would know that she's lying. And therefore, if she's saying to her husband, oh, you gave me a get before the war, she must be telling the truth. And so everybody would agree that we believe her. That is the opinion of Rav Hamnuna. Rava says, Rava says, I don't think that she's believed. Adarabba, the opposite. Afilu the Mishnah Rishona, even according to the Mishnah Rishona, that we always believe the woman, even in the early part of the Mishnah, where a woman says something, we always believe her. Hasham, over there, we always believe her. Mishum deloy avida lebzuya nafsha. That doesn't cause her any embarrassment. Why doesn't it cause her any embarrassment? Why doesn't it cause her any embarrassment to say? Because the it causes her embarrassment by her saying that she got raped. You know, it takes courage to say that she got raped. It causes her to be degraded. So often a woman would not want to say that. And the fact that she does say it, that's why our Mishnah believed her. Aval Hacha, by saying that she got divorced, maybe dizimnid the takas lo mingavra. She hates her husband so much. Me'iza o me'iza. She does have the courage to, say a big lie to her husband. And therefore, Rava says we should not believe a woman that says to her husband, you gave me a divorce. So you have Rava has the opposite Savara. He says, when would we believe a woman is if she's saying something negative about herself by saying she got raped, yeah, then we can believe her. But if she says she gave a get, if she says she gave over here, if she goes over to her husband and says, you gave me a get, maybe we wouldn't believe her because she hates her husband so much, she'll do anything to get out of this marriage. So the Gemara continues. The Gemara continues and says, Masiv Rav Masharshia. Rav Masharshia asked the question against Rava. One of the cases of the Mishnah is that if a woman says to her husband, you have a dysfunction, and therefore we can't have children because you're not yoyrek kechetz. In other words, you cannot have intercourse properly. So we believe her. Hashemayim beini leveinecha. The Mishnah is Shina, and we believe her. Because what kind of embarrassment does she take on when she says that her husband can't have normal intercourse? Piyufta de Rava, hacha de lesle ketsufa. We see in a situation where she's not degrading herself. She's just degrading her husband, ukutani dehemna, and we believe her because we see that a woman, we do believe what the story the woman has to tell. So why does Rava say that if a woman says, "Oh, husband, you gave me a divorce," we believe her? If he denies it, of course, we believe her. And says the Gemara, Kusava Rava holds Hossam, even when a woman says over there, when she says her husband can't do it in bed, it's really shameful for her to even say it. In fact, when she wants to say that to the people that she has a husband that can't do it, she's saying Hashamayim beini levenecha. Heaven is between us and him, between myself and him. In other words, we're so far apart in bed. And then she has to explain herself what she meant. She meant to say is that he has a problem doing it. So that's also shaming herself. We see that she doesn't want to say the words how he performs in bed. She just uses a euphemistic saying, "Oh, heaven separates me and my husband." So he doesn't want to say that he doesn't fire off like an arrow. So therefore, we believe her. If it wasn't true what she said, she wouldn't say that. So therefore, there is some shame over here by saying it. And therefore, if she does say it, we believe her that the husband can't do it in bed. However, if she says "Gei Rashtani" and my husband gave me a divorce, we would not believe her according to Rava, because perhaps she hates her husband so much that she wants to just get out of the marriage. Now the Mishnah says, the Gemara just asks on Rav Hamanuna. Rav Hamanuna said we would believe a woman that says, "Husband, you gave me a divorce," and he says, "I don't remember, I didn't give you a divorce." We believe her. The Mishnah says, "Hashamayim beini levenecha." If she says to her husband that he can't do it in bed, the end of the Mishnah says that later on Chachamim said we don't believe her. The Mishnah Achroina to have it to you of the Rav Hamanuna, we don't believe her. So therefore, how could Rav Hamnuna, if we don't believe her when she says her husband can't do it, right, and can't have normal marital relations, because that's the way the Mishnah ends off, so then why would we believe her when she says my husband gave me a divorce? Well, over here, the Yadahi, she knows that her husband probably knows how he performs during Tashmish. She knows it, and her husband knows it. We don't believe her. So again, we see that if we don't believe her that she would lie in front of her husband when her husband knows about it. So we don't believe her. So same thing over here by the get. She knows that her husband knows if he gave the get, and we don't see that to be a strong enough guts situation to give her the power that we would believe her, because we don't believe her when she says Hashamayim beini levenecha, when she says that her husband can't do it in bed. He knows if he could, and so we see that's not enough of a reason to believe her. Answers the Gemara, Ksava Rav Hamnuna holds Hachinam higifa amra. She really thinks, and this is probably almost the way it is, Nihi de bebiya yada. The truth is that she knows that the husband will say, "I do marital relations with you," but she will assume, does the husband really know if he fires off like an arrow? Is he is he normal? And therefore, she knows that the husband doesn't really know the truth. So therefore, she has guts. If she has guts enough over there to make the lie, and therefore we don't believe her. But that's why she lies over there. But when a woman says "Gei Rashtani," it takes a tremendous amount of courage for her to say that, "Husband, you gave me a divorce," when he has to be present at the divorce and have to written the paper and sign the paper, whatever it is, to be involved in the divorce. And therefore, if she has the courage enough to say it, then it must be that the divorce actually happened, and we would believe her. So again, we'll leave it at that. If there was a story after the war where a woman came back and said, "Oh, I got and they met husband and wife, and she said, before the war, you gave me a divorce," according to Rav Hamnuna, we would believe her, even though he might say, "No, I don't remember giving you a divorce." And according to Rava, no, we won't believe her. The Gemara continues. Now the Gemara discusses for the next 4 stories, and that ends the Masechta. The Gemara discusses what happens. You come home and you find your wife sleeping with somebody else. As you know, somebody else is in the house. I shouldn't say sleeping, but somebody else is in the house. So you're choshed. Now the truth is that doesn't make your wife usher. It doesn't make the wife usher on the man. The only way a person becomes usher is if there were edim that saw that the woman, the married woman, had relations outside of with somebody else. But if there's no edim, if there's just yichud, or there was no kinui ustira, that the husband did not warn her in front of edim not to seclude herself with this man, and there was no edim that saw her secluding with this man. If he just walked into the house and finds a man in his bedroom, but he didn't see them actually doing it, she's permitted. But min hadin, that's the din. But a Baal Nefesh should now give his wife a divorce if she did such a thing. This is this discussion of this Gemara. Listen to this story. Hahi itisa. There was this woman, the Chol Yoimed, the Tashmish, after they used to have marital relations, Miktima Mashiyad Lagavish. She would bring Netilas Yadayim for her husband, because after you do Tashmish, you have to do Netilas Yadayim. That's the halacha. So Yom Echad, one time, Asyalei Maya Lemimsha. She brought her husband water to wash her hands after Tashmish. Amalah. So he told her, I didn't have any marital relations with you. Why are you bringing me to wash my hands? I didn't have any marital relations. Amrle. So she said to him, in Cain, if it wasn't you, Chad min goyim, we go to Amid Tzadik Aleph Amid Beis, Chad min goyim ahaloihi, the havi hachi yedana. It must have been one of the peddlers that sell, perfumes that was here. They're the ones that had relations with me. I thought it was you. If it wasn't you, dilma min hain, maybe it was from them. So basically, she's saying I had relations with somebody else. Now, probably her husband was a kohen, so therefore now she becomes usher to him, because even if it was by accident she slept with somebody else, she becomes usher to her husband. That's what you think. Amar Rav Nachman, we don't even believe her. Einenu nasna ba'achar. Her eyes is trying to get out of this marriage, and she's marrying somebody else. Relace ba mishasha b'mila. We don't trust. There's no in her words. There's nothing tangible. In other words, we totally don't trust her on this situation. Again, it's another story. The loy hava bedicha data. She wasn't happy. She was an unhappy married woman. Bahade gavra. So this was a shock, because her husband always saw her as a happy person. I don't know what kind of marriage they had, but her husband, Omalah. So her husband says to her, why do you look so sad today? Unusually, more than, I never met you this sad. So she said to him, I never had such a rough marital relations with you as I had just right now. And therefore, I think you hurt me. Amallah. So he said to her, I didn't have any marital relations with you now. Amallah. So she said, oh, it wasn't you? In Cain Halen Goyim Naftoi, it was these Goyim selling neft, which is gas or oil for fuel for the house. They came over and they must have stayed in the bedroom, and I slept with them. If it wasn't you, maybe it was them. So now she wants to say that she slept with a goy. Her husband probably also was a kohen, and therefore she's now, according to her little story over here, her understanding is that she can't remain with her husband. Rav Nachman says, "Loi tashkichem bab." Don't pay attention to her. She's actually trying to get out of this marriage, looking to her eyes in somebody else. Don't pay attention to her. Okay. Now, here comes another story. Ahu Gavra, there was this person. The have a maharzik bebeise, who ve'intisa. In other words, there was this person was having an affair with this woman in her house. Okay, a man was having an affair with somebody's wife. Al asa mar de beise. All of a sudden, in walks the husband. Brata noyef luhutza ba'arak. Look at this. The noyef, the adulterer, jumped out and ran through the picket fence and escaped. but actually I assume that the husband saw his face, right? So what do you think? This is so clear cut that they must have slept with each other, and it should be asa for the husband. Amar Rava said itis sharia. The woman is permitted. Why? Because in Isa the Avid Isura, if they did sleep with each other, irkas hava mirkas, he would have hid in the bedroom, or he would have hid until the coast was clear. He took the car. He was so confident to escape out in the open, and the husband could get a good look at him because he was sure enough in his mind that he didn't sleep with her, and therefore that's no proof. So therefore, Rava said it must be that they never slept with each other, and the woman is permitted to stay with her husband. Then the Gemara tells one final story. Ahu Noyef. There was this adulterer, the Olagabehi Intisa, that went into this to this woman. And here it uses an adulterer. There it uses Ahu Gavra, he was a man. But here it was a Noyef, a known adulterer. So I guess there's a bigger chiddush, even if you know this guy is sleeps with many people. Anyway, he was having an affair with this married woman. Asa Gavra, so the husband came home. So Selek Noyef Aiseh Bava. The adulterer hid behind the door. So the husband walked in, the adulterer slid behind the door, and the husband did not see him. Hava machten tachle tamam, vitaminon chivyon. There was cress. There was like little vegetables or something there, and a snake tasted it. So the adulterer saw a snake eat from that grass, from that vegetables, and the husband had no idea, right? But since the adulterer was there before he did, he saw a snake eat the vegetables that were in the house. But so when the husband came home, the husband wanted to eat from these cress, from these vegetables, from these cress, without the knowledge of the wife. All of a sudden, the adulterer screams out from behind the door. The adulterer screams out, don't eat from them. The taminun chivya, snake ate there and probably deposited his poison in the cress, in the food. And if you're going to eat it, you're going to die. So what does that prove? That the adulterer wanted the husband to live. Rava said, this woman is permitted. In other words, she did not sleep with this man. If they actually slept with each other, then he would have wanted him to eat it and die. The ksiv, because the pasuk says, Kinu afu, someone who's an adulterer, he has blood on his hand. Because usually they go into hand in hand. When somebody's adulterer, it usually leads to murder. So that's why the fact that he was trying to save the life of the husband is a proof that he did not commit a sin with his wife. So the Gemara asks, Pshita, isn't this obvious? So the Gemara says, Mahu desema. I would have thought, no. Isura Avid, he actually did sleep with his wife. Haida Amalei, why did he say this? The Nichele de Loitlemisba, he did not want the husband to die. Why? The Tehebe Intese Eleve. He would have rather had the woman stay married to this husband so that it's more fun this way when he can actually have an affair with a married woman. If he kills the husband, it's not as fun anymore. So I might think the reason why he wanted not to kill the husband is not because he didn't sin. He really did sin, but he just wanted the husband to remain married to the woman so that he could continue to have fun with a married woman. And where do you see that? Maim genova yimtaku. Plain water, when it's stolen, tastes sweet. Water has no taste, but when it's stolen, it tastes sweet. V'lechem sasarim yina. Hamash malan. So Rav Teortic, that's not the reason. Really, he did not sin. And he just didn't want to see somebody die when he could save his life. That's why he saved his life and did not, and told him not to eat from the cress, from that food, because a snake ate from it. I'm just pointing out one more time that the reason really these women were never usher to their husband. Even if he saw mamish somebody sleeping in the bed with his wife, but he didn't see them actually doing it, that doesn't make the woman usher to her husband. she'ain, like the Ran says, she'ain ish neseres al bala el bikini v'sirui, oy be'edei davar bara. Only if you have witnesses that see something clear. If there's no edim, the woman is permitted on her husband. But it's not because of these reasons, but because the chol ba nefesh lochesh la'asmei. If a person is concerned about his soul, should not stay married to a woman who is subject to having affairs with other men. So these men would have normally, because of frumkeit, divorced their wives. And Rava and Rav Nachman, depending on the story, were advising them to stay with their wife. I'll just end off with what the Ran ends off. Kim v'shamayim yore einenu. God from heaven enlighten our eyes, b'tairasei with His Torah. Kara chama shivasayim, like the light of the sun 7 times fold. V'yiskilenu liras bevinyin Yerushalayim. We should be zeicher to see the building Yerushalayim. Amen. Hadron Allah ve'elu nedarim. Uslich Allah mesecha nedarim. Okay. I just want to point one point that I had if I can have you one more minute in the Hadron. I wanted to point out to you that in the normal and in the Hadron, in the tefillah of the Hadron, we say Onu mashkinim lidivir Torah. We get up and learn Torah. The hey mashkirim l'dvarim b'telim, they get up for nonsense. Then we say Onu amelim, we toil. The hey amelim, and they toil. Onu amelim u'mekablim sachar, we toil and get reward. The hey amelim be'inam mekabel sachar, they work hard and don't get reward. So we don't say Onu amelim b'divrei Torah, that we're working in divrei Torah. This is the whole point of learning Torah. The whole point of learning Torah is to understand that no matter what action you're involved in, you could define it as a mitzvah or a non-mitzvah, or not the Ratzon Hashem. And that's what learning is all about, where you can learn to define things that you're doing. For an example, if a person's stuck in traffic on his way to Lakewood for a chasana, so you can make it into a mitzvah by saying to yourself, you're on your way to be mekayim the mitzvah haftal reach kamoicha, and you get reward like that. So that makes the difference to us. We toil, and no matter what we're toiling, not even in divrei Torah, but in any matter that you're doing, you can give it kedusha to it by figuring out that I'm on my way to do the Ratzon Hashem. And that's the whole essence of Nedarim. By words and by action, by stating something, you actually give sanctification to what you're doing. So this ends off with our beautiful Masechta Nedarim.
Sure. Mazel tov, mazel tov.
I have my wine over here, and I'm going to take a little bit of.
What brand is it?
It's called Lacombe's.
Lacombe. Never heard of it. I'm sorry, but they never heard of me either.
It's a good one. So I enjoy this one.